Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to this week's episode of What Happened in the DSE. My name is Aisa Omari and I'll be taking you through what happened in the equities market, the treasury bond market, and the corporate bond market. Alright, so the first thing I would like us to get straight is to figure out how trading has changed from last week compared to this week. So last week's total trading or turnover had totaled up to 250.53 million, and this week it's increased massively to 2,595.14 million. That's around 936%. All right, so let's get into it. Let's try to figure out exactly why trading this week has increased this much. First thing that we have to consider are the top movers for this week. Basically, these are all of the counters or companies which have traded the most during the week. So the total trading for the week was 4,026,120 shares, and Vodacom had actually contributed to 74.91% of that, followed by CRDB with a 14.50% and TBL with a 5.99%. Alright, so with Voda and TBL, we actually find that they were both traded in what is called a block trade prearranged market board. And in simple terms, this basically means that an entity, right, it could be a person, but it's more likely to be an institution, would want to trade into a very large number of shares, right? I mean, 3 million shares, it's not a joke, right? For a singular investor to invest in 3 million shares, to want to buy 3 million shares, that's quite a lot of shares. So it's more likely to be an institution. And so what happens here, it's that whole concept of bulk buying. When you want to go buy something in bulk, you'll notice that the price is lowered just a little bit for you. So what happens here is that because it's such a large amount of shares, this entity has the right, in a sense, to negotiate or to arrange for a price with whomever is selling these shares. You understand? So that's basically what happened for shares of Voda and TBL. Now, normally the price at which the shares are traded at is not published in the market report. Okay, now when we go into specific days, we can see that on Monday, Yatu shares had gone up. And if you remember, Yatu shares had been a small piece about it last week. When we focus specifically on Yatu, we see that on Tuesday to Friday, Yatu shares had actually been going down continuously. And it's kind of surprising because just last week, the shares had shot up 44%. And now all of a sudden, from 1,080 on Monday, had dropped all the way to 810 on Friday, which is a 33% decrease. Now, you know, it's weird because it's like, why is this happening? I'm going to introduce you guys to a small concept known as speculation. Basically what this is when you hear about speculation in the stock markets, it's basically when an investor decides to buy the shares of a company right now with the hope that the price will go up sometime in the near future. And when we look quickly into the history of Yatu, Yatu shares were actually first listed on the stock exchange on the 23rd of November in 2020, and they were listed for 420 shillings per share. And in just a span of 1.5 months, it had increased all the way to 3,620 shillings per share, which is around 762%. And it's safe to say that the same people who had seen that trend back then assumed that now if I buy the shares at 500, and it's safe to say that when the price will definitely double, and when it does double, that is when I'm going to sell it, because that is the safest bet. And that is exactly what happened over here. Okay, turning over to treasury bonds. We also want to see if the trading has changed from last week and this week. Now, last week, total trading was 35.61 billion, and this week's total trading was 75.19 billion. It's also a very large increase, or a very large change. Let's get into why. Now, during the week, day with the most trading of treasury bonds was on Thursday, and most of these, around 54% of these, had been contributed by 20-year bonds. And so from this, we can kind of conclude that there's a very large appetite for 20-year bonds, and this is most probably because of the coupon advantage that you would get if you were to possess a 20-year bond. A 20-year bond offers the second highest coupon out of all of the treasury bonds which are offered by the government of 15.49%, which means that you will be receiving 15.49% of the total amount that you are going to trade. So let's say that you've bought a treasury bond worth 3 billion. This means that every year for the next 20 years you will be receiving 15.49% of that 3 billion. All right, and what we have here now is the auction results for the 5-year treasury bond, which had been auctioned on the 15th of September, being last Wednesday. The minimum successful price to go through was 96.8719, and it was undersubscribed by 26.2 million. Now, what this does, it just confirms to us that the appetite, most investors' appetite when it comes to treasury bonds, are for the ones that yield a higher coupon, as compared to these ones that yield a lower coupon. All right, now let's finish up with the corporate bond trading. Last week, the total corporate bonds which were traded total up to 39.61 million, and this week it a total up to 34.93 million. Now it's a slight decrease. And when we take a look at our chart over here, we see that on Wednesday we have the highest trading, which was just a single NMB bond. It's a 3-year bond with 10% coupon. And please visit our website and any of our social media platforms. And you could also email us if you have any questions about the video or any other related questions to A Trader.